Kingdom Hearts story has become one of the most complex or confusing stories in gaming history, with a story spanning over 8 games and over 6 consoles. We see the plot expand from a pretty easy to understand premise in Kingdom Hearts 1 to a brain-numbingly confusing story in Dream Drop Distance that still has a large amount of the community and players confused. But now that we are about to reach the final game for the Xehanort Saga, Kingdom Hearts 3, let's look at what's made this story so confusing throughout the series. When looking at the series as a whole, I believe that there are 3 main reasons why the series is in the place that it is. The first reason I have is the way the games have been released as a whole, and also alone. The first game was released in 2002, and Chain of Memories in 2004, and then Kingdom Hearts 2 in 2005, and overall that seems like a perfectly good release schedule. But the main games, technical main games such as 1, 2, and then 3, took a rest for a long time. We still don't have a release date for Kingdom Hearts 3 as of the time of this video. And instead we got 4 or 5 side games, even though those games can be very helpful into explaining this series more. It still split up the series strangely, and these games move to different time periods in the Kingdom Hearts series, and also between many different characters, with nothing really being consistent between any of the games. Such as jumping from Coded, which was dealing with Mickey and Data characters, and overall having very little that pushed the story forward, and happening after Kingdom Hearts 2. Then it went to 350 by 2 days, which happens during Chain of Memories and a little before 2, and deals with the organization in Roxas. Then Birth by Sleep, which happens 10 years earlier from I believe Kingdom Hearts 1, where we focused on Terra, Vin, and Aqua. Then to Dream Drop Distance, which moves the main story forward, happening after Coded and 2. With Riku and Sora being the main focal point of the game. And then finally, we have Kingdom Hearts Key, which happens at the very beginning of the Keyblade War. Heck, we're about to get 2.8, which will deal with Aqua and the Foretellers. And don't get me wrong, explanation is great, but with the way all these games were released, it has you jumping around a lot, making it hard for people not really dedicated to the series to keep up. Also, one more thing about these releases for the games that is probably worse than what I just said a minute ago. That is the fact that the series has been released on 6 different consoles. This makes it hard for people to have played every game. It makes some people have to choose between playing one or the other and then missing out on things, such as back with Kingdom Hearts 1 Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 were released on the PS2, and then for some reason Chain of Memories was on the Game Boy Advance. And this gave a lot of people the sense that the game isn't really that important, or they couldn't get a console to play it on, or maybe like myself, they had no idea it existed. And with missing out on this game, you will be thoroughly confused about what is happening in Kingdom Hearts 2. And yes, now I know they have remakes of these games such as 1.5, 2.5, and 2.8, with all these games put together. But back in the day, there was a lot of confusion, and it confused myself too. And luckily these remixes are now available, because this doesn't just help with the ease of access to all the games, but also if you want to play them in an order that will make it the easiest to understand, it's a lot easier to do so. This next reason is probably the second biggest reason that I think a lot of people are confused with the game, or maybe even first, for the fact that the next one only kind of affects one game. But this one is the fact that this game relies on switching of bodies in multiples of different people, or splitting of hearts. And well, if you aren't extremely dedicated to this series and have only played maybe a few of the games, then this aspect will make it very hard for a lot of people to keep up. So let's point out a lot of the times that this splitting of hearts or multiple people come into play. Kingdom Hearts 1, Kairi's heart is locked inside Sora's heart is released, and Kairi's heart returns to her, and Sora is turned into a heartless, but then saved by Kairi. Roxas and Naminé are then created from that, and also the other organizations are created from their whole being losing a heart, but are later whole again once their nobodies are defeated and also their heartless are defeated. Riku's heart and body is possessed by Ansem's Seeker of Darkness. Riku regains control later. Riku looks like Ansem's Seeker of Darkness in Kingdom Hearts 2, after letting the darkness take him over after trying to capture Roxas. Xion is created from the leaking memories of Sora and returns to Sora later. Same for Roxas 2, where Sora then wakes up. Also, Roxas looks like Ventus because due to Ventus becoming extremely weak from Xehanort trying to create the Keyblade, and then later Ventus helping to destroy the Keyblade, Ventus's heart has to rest inside Sora's to regain its strength. Vanitas in Birth by Sleep is created from the darkness inside Ventus and looks like Sora for the same reason Roxas looks like Ventus, where Ventus's heart is inside Sora's. Xehanort takes over Terra's body, leaving Terra's mind inside the Keyblade armor. We find out in Kingdom Hearts 2 that Xemnas is Xehanort's nobody and Ansem Seeker of Darkness is his Heartless. Also, the fact that Ansem Seeker of Darkness stole Ansem the Wise's name too. But lastly, the entire goal for Xehanort is to split his heart into 13 pieces and have it placed into 13 different vessels. And also, there is a reincarnation theory out there for many of the characters in the series too. But for the most part, I believe that having a game where there are multiples of splitting of hearts and going into different people, and then there are technically people that look like other people that have similar names to other people, that's going to confuse the living hell out of a lot of people. Hell, Sora has like 4 reincarnations, I want to say reincarnations, kind of versions of himself in the series, or characters that act very similar to him. So that is a second reason I think a lot of people find this plot confusing. Up until Dream Drop Distance, the story has been complicated and took some thinking, but you could understand it, after a while at least. But with the addition of Dream Drop Distance and time travel, it turned the story from somewhat complicated to something some people might call a mess. Don't get me wrong, I love the series, I love making these theories, and I think the story is great. But the addition of time travel is something that, in my opinion, shouldn't have happened, because time travel is a monster that is hard to tackle when it's the main theme or focus of a series in the first place. But when it's thrown into a series that's already complicated, it can make things much worse, and in this case, it did. Especially since Dream Drop Distance has rules for time travel to be different depending on who's doing the time travel. Such as Yen Sid's time travel magic is somewhat different from young Xehanort's time travel, who ignores some of the set rules that were made early on in the story. And even though there's these rules, they've only fully been followed out by one person, Ansem Seeker of Darkness. And even though the middle part of Dream Drop Distance doesn't directly affect the main plot, I felt that the way it's told, from traveling from world to world and then seeing Xemnas again and all of them, can be very confusing and doesn't really help with the understanding of time travel. And also the Dream Eaters Part 2 can confuse things and makes the explanation of time travel even more confusing. And I'm almost positive that it will show up again in Kingdom Hearts 3 because it kinda has to. But hopefully it will be explained more and make more sense in the next game. Well, that is about it for why I believe that, to some people that aren't extremely dedicated to the story, why the series might be confusing to a lot of you. I know dedicated people out there like me are going to understand almost every aspect of the story except for maybe Dream Drop Distance, but this is more just overall explaining to more casual people for the story. But tell me what y'all think. What do you think actually for you makes the story confusing, if it does, or do you not think the story is confusing at all? It's perfectly fine. You understand every inch of that little Steins Gate gap right there in Dream Drop Distance. But yeah, tell me what you think about this video, and punch a like button if you enjoyed too. My name's Keyblade, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out.